Imagine for a second being handed the keys to an entire civilization.
Wow. Okay. No pressure.
Right. But there is this massive catch. The only leader the civilization has ever known, like a legendary figure who literally parted seas for them, has just died.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that changes things.
Exactly. You are standing on the edge of hostile territory, looking out at over 1 million people, and they are all entirely dependent on you to keep them alive.
That's an unimaginable cognitive load.
Totally. Every single familiar parameter of their existence has just evaporated overnight. And, you don't need a logistical checklist for a moment like that. You need a psychological anchor.
You really do.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into this fascinating source material you provided us. It's Lee Carl's co-research outline, and it's titled Unyielding Faith and the Courage to Command. It basically breaks down the first chapter of the book of Joshua.
It does, yeah. And it's a brilliant breakdown.
And on its face, this is a theological document, but when you really get into the mechanics of what Carl is analyzing, it reveals an absolute masterclass.
It really does. It's so rich.
It is a masterclass in navigating massive life transitions, surviving the complete loss of earthly support structures, and really understanding the heavy, complicated burden of leadership.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to grasp the directives given in this text, we have to recognize the sheer crushing weight of the environment where these commands are being dropped.
That context is everything. It really is.
Yeah.
And just to set the tone for you as you listen today, our mission here is not to preach, or endorse a specific theological stance.
Right. We are just looking at the text.
Exactly. We are here as your impartial guides. We're dissecting Carl's architectural breakdown of these ancient directives to extract the timeless psychological and leadership principles that are just embedded within them.
Because they're universal, right?
Completely universal. Whether you approach this text from a devout place of faith or from a purely secular historical perspective, the human dynamics at play here, they are exactly the same. The text just drops us right into a season of profound existential instability.
Right. And before the text even gets into how you are commanded to act, it establishes this brutal environment. Carl frames this as the life transition reality.
The life transition reality, yes.
Which is basically the reality that our lives take on new parameters. Loved ones leave and earthly supports change. In the historical context of Joshua, Moses is gone.
Right. The ultimate earthly support is just gone.
Yeah, Moses wasn't just a boss. He was the only intercessor and leader this generation had ever known. So the parameters of their entire reality are just shifting beneath their feet. And I think about this think about a building under construction.
Okay, I like this.
You have all this scaffolding built up around the outside, right? It holds everything in place while the work is being done. For us, that scaffolding is our earthly support. It's that mentor who always buffers you from the CEO, or, that parent who always has the exact right answer.
Yeah, that external structure that just keeps you feeling safe.
Exactly. But what happens when you go through a massive life transition and that scaffolding just falls away?
That is the ultimate test, isn't it?
It is. You find out very quickly if your foundation can actually hold up on its own. And what the outline suggests is that the only viable foundation here is the unchanging Word of God.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're talking about is the deep, fundamental psychological need for an absolute constant when all your other variables change.
The ultimate constant.
Right? Because human beings are wired to seek stability.
Mm-hmm.
When the scaffolding drops, your brain goes into absolute overdrive trying to map out a new survival strategy.
And anxiety just spikes.
Oh, completely. Decision-making becomes paralyzed. Carl's commentary highlights how the text deliberately contrasts this shifting, unpredictable human reality with these foundational truths.
And this is where we hit some of the deep theology that we should probably translate for everyone.
Let's do it.
So the text points out that God's word is infallible, right? And it was given through Moses, who the commentary describes here as a type of Christ.
Right, which is a very specific theological term.
Exactly. So for anyone not steeped in theology, a type of Christ basically means Moses was a historical figure whose life and leadership served as a sort of foreshadowing, like a blueprint for the ultimate savior that was to come in Christian theology.
A physical human blueprint.
Right. And the commentary asserts that the divine love, fidelity, and presence remain utterly unchanged, even though that human blueprint, Moses, the scaffolding, is gone.
That is the specific assurance given in the text. It says, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee, and I will not fail thee nor forsake thee."
I mean, what a lifeline to be thrown in that moment.
It's incredible. Carl emphasizes that this applies through the heat, the cold, the desperate need for guidance. Having a support system that will not fail nor forsake, it acts as an anchor when all earthly parameters shift. It provides a psychological floor so you don't just stay in freefall.
So if that foundation is our anchor, keeping the building from collapsing when the scaffolding drops, how do we actually move forward?
Right, what's the action plan?
Because once that unyielding foundation is established, the text pivots pretty sharply into how the listener is instructed to act. We move out of the theological reassurance and straight into what we can call the core directive.
And the directive is beautifully blunt. It basically says, look at what you have been taught.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah, don't turn to the right or the left. Be
Yeah.
strong. It moves incredibly fast from I am with you to boots on the ground obedience.
Mhm.
You have to be ready to go where told and do exactly what is said.
Okay, wait. This strict command to obey authority without respect of persons and giving no leeway to rebellion, how do we process that when human authority is often so flawed?
That is the golden question.
I mean, we see toxic leadership everywhere today. We've got cults of personality, abusive bosses, corrupt politicians. Is this ancient text really advocating for blind obedience to whoever happens to be sitting in the big chair?
It's a massive stumbling block for modern readers, for sure. But if we examine the internal logic of the text that Carl maps out, it is absolutely not advocating for blind subservience to a tyrant.
Okay, so what is the distinction then?
Well, Joshua's authority wasn't arbitrary. The commentary points out that Joshua's leadership model was that he first knew the will of the Lord and only then commanded the people.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, his authority was entirely dependent on his own absolute alignment with that infallible foundation we just talked about.
So a leader's authority is conditional. They only get to give commands if they are actually anchored to the truth themselves.
Precisely. And to illustrate this, Carl provides a specific, really fascinating foil to Joshua. The outline brings up Absalom.
Okay, let's talk about Absalom.
So Absalom was a son of King David, and he orchestrated this slick, highly manipulative rebellion to seize the throne from his own father.
Wow. Just a classic power grab.
Exactly. He is the ultimate example of what not to do. He represents the chaos of seizing power out of self-interest rather than divine alignment.
But why does Absalom fail while Joshua succeeds? I mean, on the surface, they are both just guys commanding large groups of people, right?
Right, but the mechanism is entirely about where their anchor is dropped. Absalom's leadership is built on the fragile foundation of his own charisma and his own ego.
And charisma requires an audience.
Exactly, it's a hungry ghost. He had to constantly manipulate public opinion to maintain his power. The moment he faces a truly immovable obstacle, his foundation crumbles because he is his own foundation.
Whereas Joshua's leadership works because it is anchored outside himself.
Yes, true obedience here is to the unchanging foundation, not to human ego. So when the people respond to Joshua in unison, saying, "All that thou commandest us we will do," they aren't bowing to his ego.
They are recognizing his alignment with the truth.
Exactly. They are locking arms to form a unified front against the profound instability around them.
And that unified front introduces another totally counterintuitive concept in this source material.
Oh, this part is so good.
Right. We tend to think of obedience and faith as very vertical concepts. Just me and God looking up, getting my personal directives. But Carl's breakdown reveals that this obedience is heavily horizontal.
Very horizontal. It is intensely focused on how you relate to the people standing to your left and right.
The text actually has this fascinating directive in the responsibility toward others section. It says you must wait while your brethren receive that portion.
Yes, you have to support your brethren first and only then return to receive God's gifts.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's think about this like a relay race.
Okay, paint the picture for me.
Imagine you are running the anchor leg of a massive, exhausting relay race. Your lungs are burning, your legs are cramping, but you push through and you cross the finish line.
Best feeling in the world.
Right. And in our modern mindset, what do next? You walk straight to the podium, you earned your gold medal, you did your part, so you take your prize and go home.
You secure your individual victory.
Exactly. But this text says, no, you don't get your medal yet. Instead, you are commanded to turn around, run back onto the track, and pace your struggling teammates.
Wow.
You don't get your prize until everyone crosses the finish line.
That analogy captures the agonizing friction of this command perfectly.
Yeah.
It really flips modern individualism completely on its head.
It totally does. We are so obsessed with getting ours.
We are. In our highly individualized, hyper-competitive society, success is almost exclusively a solo pursuit. but Carl's framework suggests that the ultimate blessing cannot be fully realized in isolation.
But mechanically speaking, why? Why is my individual victory hollow if my brethren are left unsupported?
Well, let's look at the tactical context of these ancient tribes. They're entering hostile territory. If your specific tribe secures this plot of land and you decide, great, I'm done fighting, while the tribes next to you are still fighting and losing, what happens?
You get flanked, the enemy overruns them, and then they come for you anyway.
Exactly. An isolated tribe is easily conquered, survival literally dependent on the collective. But even beyond the ancient military context, the psychological principle holds true today. True leadership requires delaying your own reward.
Which, let's be honest, sounds utterly exhausting.
Oh, it is. It's so hard.
If you are gripping that foundation for dear life and you are deliberately delaying your own gratification to run back and pace your exhausted teammates, you are thrust into a relentless state of waiting.
Yes. You're stuck in the gap.
You are living in this brutal gap between doing the right thing and actually getting to enjoy the results of it.
And that tension, that space between promise and reality, is where Carl's outline takes us for its final act, the encouragement and waiting section.
Because the text knows it's hard.
It absolutely knows.
Right.
It reassures the listener that the blessing is near, that it is high time. But it makes this profound distinction. It says, sometimes promises are immediate, but fulfillment requires waiting.
So what does this all mean for the listener right now? Because I think this is where the ancient text hits the most exposed nerve in modern culture.
It really exposes us, doesn't it?
We live in an era of zero friction and instant gratification. Same-day delivery, instant streaming. We are utterly terrified of waiting.
We treat waiting like a punishment.
Totally. When we receive a promise, like a job offer or a breakthrough in therapy, we expect the fulfillment to manifest the exact second the promise is spoken. The waiting phase is excruciating.
What's fascinating here is how Carl's analysis of the text argues the exact opposite of our modern mindset. The waiting is not a glitch. The text reassures us that God makes all things beautiful in His time.
In His time, not ours.
Right. And consider how this concept of waiting completely reframes the closing charge of the text. At the end of the outline, we get these famous directives to stand firm, walk forward in obedience, and be strong.
See, when I hear those words, I immediately picture a warrior, like someone actively fighting a battle, taking the hill. It implies aggressive momentum.
Right. That is the traditional reading. But if we view those commands through the lens of this delayed gratification, their meaning shifts. Those directives are specifically necessary because of the waiting period.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Courage isn't just required for fighting battles. Courage is required to endure the agonizing gap between an immediate promise and its eventual fulfillment.
Standing firm while absolutely nothing appears to be happening.
Precisely. Having the strength to stare at the foundation when the scaffolding is gone and the fog isn't lifting, the courage to command is ultimately the courage to wait.
That is a staggering paradigm shift. Wow. So looking back at our journey today through Lee Carl's intricate breakdown of Joshua 1, we have traversed some incredible psychological terrain.
We really have.
We started with that jarring life transition reality, the visceral pain of earthly supports vanishing, and finding out if your foundation can hold when the scaffolding falls away.
And standing on that infallible foundation.
Exactly. And then we saw how crucial it is to avoid the fragile, validation-hungry rebellion represented by Absalom. True authority is anchored in truth, not ego.
And we can't forget that incredible paradox of community.
The relay race, right? The demand that you cannot simply grab your medal and walk off the track. You must support your brethren first, ensuring they cross the finish line before you settle into your own gift.
Which naturally forces you into the crucible of waiting.
That agonizing tension between the promise being spoken and the reality finally arriving. It is a masterclass in human endurance. As we wrap up this deep dive into the source material, I want to hand it over to our expert for one final thought. We've spent the last 15 minutes or so dissecting the mechanics of this text, but I know you always like to leave the listener with a question that lingers.
I do. We spend time unpacking that brilliant distinction that while a promise can be immediate, fulfillment requires waiting. But what if the waiting isn't simply a delay of the blessing?
Okay.
What if the wait is actively doing the work of forging you into the kind of person who's actually strong enough to carry that blessing once it arrives? Think about a promise you are currently waiting on. How is the wait itself reshaping you?
Man, that is an incredible question to sit with. How is the weight reshaping you? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration into your source material has equipped you with a sturdier psychological anchor and a fresh perspective on how to navigate the transitions in your own story. Keep exploring, keep asking great questions, and we will catch you next time.